welcome to the Israel First television program from our studios in Jerusalem. Wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your company with a program that looks at the news, we look behind the news, and we look at what's happening behind the scenes. And we also do things from a Hebraic perspective as well. Nathalie often gives us an insight into the Hebraic perspective, biblical perspective as to what is happening. Now, we've been talking on the program about the one world government, the New World Order, the book of Daniel, which talks about the one world government. I think it's also mentioned in the book of Revelation, Nathalie. And we've been talking about what they're up to. And so we're going to have again look at this week what the New World Order, One World Government are up to in Israel, which is the most important thing. Now remember, Israel is first. That's why we have the name Israel First, because this is the place where everything is going to culminate. The whole of history is building up to the culmination, the Day of Judgment, the Jerusalem above coming down out of heaven to the Jerusalem below, the Messiah coming. It's all a new heavens and new earth. It's all coming to Israel, to Jerusalem. So when we look at the news, we're bearing all these things in mind to give you a full picture of what's happening. Unfortunately, the mainstream media is no longer doing that, but I'll explain a bit about why that's happening. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, just to briefly mention, is the judicial reforms protests, because those have been in the mainstream media news. Some of you have been following that, and basically they're just another form of the clock ticking. They're not what's really happening. They're a smokescreen, they're a diversion, but this is very important for you to know. It's possible, and we won't know unless we have unless we see into the future, we won't know. But it's possible that these things will start to happen all over the world. They are happening in countries are falling apart by themselves across the world. That's part of the New World Order's strategy, because it means they can bring in control. Control is the big thing, and that's why they're bringing in things like the cashless society, artificial intelligence, use of robots, etc. Now, the first thing I want to make clear to you is that the protests, which, by the way, as we've come into the studio, are still continuing, have caused lockdowns in Israel, which we haven't seen since the days of COVID and all of that period, the COVID period. They have caused lockdowns to come by the blocking of traffic, blocking of major highways in Israel, blocking of entry into Jerusalem. Protest marches have blocked stopped drivers being able to access routes. So these are things a bit like that happened, Nathalie, during the time of COVID. And as well as that, there have been clashes between protesters and police, and also between protesters and people passing by and passers-by. Even a motorcyclist was attacked by a protester who hit him with the pole for the flag. They carry around the flags of Israel, but by the way, both sets of protesters carry the flag of Israel with them, which should suggest that there's something odd. If they both have the same flag and both look the same, then how do we know who's who? Well, it doesn't really matter, because it's just a smokescreen. However, there is violence unfortunately, from the protesters, and as I say, a motorcyclist was injured by someone hitting him with the flagpole. Now, the interesting thing is, and just for those who are following the protests, the judicial reform, let's just remember what's happening with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court in Israel is, at the end of the day, it's a bastion of Freemasonry. You can see that from the amount of steps, the design of the building, etc., etc. It is probably one of the ultimate places of Freemasonry. And according to Haaretz News, it's also a place where there has been investigations into judicial appointments and corruption behind Israel's judicial appointments. Also, a senior legal official was arrested and others questioned on judicial corruption, according to the Times of Israel. So there are investigations into corruption in the legal circles. And many of you will be aware of that, but if for you who are not living in Israel, it's very important for you to know. So really, it's a nonsensical protest. And by the way, it's very interesting, Nathalie. I was reading a comment in one of the news medias that was saying that, someone was saying that they don't know why there's a protest when nothing happens, nothing changes, that all the legislation is still getting passed, and these things still continue. So it's almost like the people are being forced to be out on the streets. It's not their own volition. They seem to be manipulated to go out onto the streets and to protest. And by the way, it's also causing disruption for businesses.
And its finances,
right,
heavily finances.
Right, and Ben Gurion Airport, etc. Now, one of the major things that's happening, which is really happening and which the mainstream media aren't really covering, is the race in Israel to go to a cashless society. In other words, digital payments, they'll be no longer able to make payments with cash. And one of the ways this is happening is the recent launch, as we've come into the studio, of the Net Chanchik rechargeable card, which allows transactions of up to 1,000 shekels. That's about $270. This is a new cash card which you can get online. Isra Card, which is the main issuer of cards in Israel, is issuing this card. It's a digitally loaded card. As I say, it allows transactions of up to 1,000 shekels at a time and can be recharged up to 4,000 shekels per month. The card can be integrated into a digital wallet, and its owner can use it to pay in physical stores or online stores. Now, digital wallets. What are digital wallets? Well, they are basically things like Apple Pay, Google Pay, Paybox, BitPay, and AnyPay. These are payments that you do with the phone. According to...
which means that they know what you are doing.
Right.
Because when you have cash, they can't know exactly. So this is the thing behind.
Right, it's control, because basically it can be turned on and off. According to the Automated Bank Services Company, which manages Israel's credit card payment system, Google Pay's entry into the digital wallet market in early December 2021 led to a 42.4% increase in online payments, which is massive. That's almost 50%. More and more Israelis are using their phones to make payments. We can vouch to that. The use of the digital wallet is gradually becoming a significant part of our shopping and payment experience, they say. We're seeing more and more circles in the public using advanced payment services. This is the Automated Bank Services CEO talking in 2022. Now, the Knesset talking about a cashless society. Is that conspiracy? No. This is the Knesset Research and Information Center. That's the Israeli parliament. Openly admits that digital wallets are to get rid of cash. The move to, this is what they say, this is quoting them, the move to advanced payment methods such as payment apps and digital wallets is expected to help reduce the use of cash. As such, increasing the use of such tools is seen as another means of achieving this government goal. So in other words, this is a goal of the Israeli government to get rid of cash. Yaron Tiktin, Vice President of Private Customers and Credit at Max, said in May 2021 that Apple Pay's entry into Israel is a dizzying success. We see users of tens of thousands of customers. By the way, all this happened, Nathalie, which is very interesting, during the COVID alleged crisis, and then suddenly all these digital ways of payments are coming in from day one, and we are sure that volume will only increase, along with a huge demand for mobile payment from Apple holders. we are seeing a 30% jump in the demand for mobile payments on Android. Bank Hapoalim also, which is one of the major banks, maybe the major bank in Israel, also introduced a digital credit card called BitCard, which can be used online. Supermarket chains Shufersal and Rami Levy are also believed to be developing digital wallets. The Bank of Israel has introduced more advanced payment technology. Israeli credit card processors have upgraded standards which enables contactless transactions and transactions by cell phones and even smartwatches. Meanwhile, as previously reported, Israel has begun restricting cash transactions, so there's a move on both sides, so almost like a carrot and stick. The carrot being the digital transactions on phones, and the stick being the fact that cash payments are being restricted. Cash transactions and even the amount of cash an Israeli citizen can keep at home is being restricted. The government aims to control how citizens spend their money and ultimately phase out cash altogether, allowing only digital payments. This sounds like Revelation. You couldn't buy or sell unless you had the mark of the beast. Now, the law for the reduction of the use of cash, that's in Israel, was designed to change the public's consumption habits and encourage a switch to digital means of payment, with a view to almost complete replacement of the use of cash in the future, reports Globe. So they know what they're up to. They know the agenda that they're working towards, which is the One World Government agenda in Israel, the New World Order. The law for the reduction in the use of cash stipulates that as of August 1st last year, 2022, 6,000 shekels is the maximum amount in cash that can be paid at a dealer or by a dealer for a transaction in the framework of its business, and the maximum amount in cash that can be paid or received in respect of a donation, loan or salary is 6,000 shekels. As of August 1st, 2022, 15,000 shekels is the maximum amount of cash that can be received for a transaction by a person who's not a dealer, between two private individuals for the purchase of a vehicle. So there is an exclusion for that. And there's a maximum amount, there's the 15,000 shekel maximum amount that they can use. Now finally, Israel freedom fighter Efrat Fenigerson also reported on Israel's race towards the digital currency. So we've got a number of things happening. We've got the payments on the mobile phone, the restriction of cash payments, and the digital currency, which is being launched by test. They're doing tests of it in Israel. Project Icebreaker was the name of the test. Israel, Norway and Sweden have completed a feasibility project for cross-border digital payments. Shekel as means of payment is being rushed through by the Bank of Israel as new architecture has been set up for digital payments. Put simply, the end of cash is the end of freedom. If cash disappears, then we are restricted only to digital payments. And Revelation 13:17 says, and that no man might buy or sell save that he had the mark, or now listen, this is very interesting what it says, save that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So there's three things that come: the mark, the beast, the name, or the number. And these are three things we are rushing towards in Israel. Now, why do I say all these things? Because if it's happening in Israel, it's happening in the rest of the world. And these are all things that are happening to bring control of population. And we're seeing it on a day-to-day basis. Now, Nathalie, you've got some things to share with us. They're always interesting things you have to share.
I know. And you see, when you speak about all these things, we see how the beast is putting his kingdom in place. And now I'm going to tell you, do you remember, we find out that John the Baptist, and please do some research, but we find out that John the Baptist, who baptized Yeshua in the Jordan, and many other people, was he seems to have been the high priest, which is very normal because the king, Yeshua, he was the king, he is still the king, had to be introduced to his ministry by the high priest, he needed to be anointed by him. So when you can read that in Luke, so you can see all these things, and like his father was also a priest, etc., etc. So we discover that. Then when we discover that Melchizedek was very important because Abraham was going to make war against 4 kings. And again, why was he making war? To keep peace, which is again very interesting. He come back, he's blessed by Melchizedek, and so is a very important covenant which is put there in place. And we find, sorry, not us personally, but in Israel, they have found the altar of Melchizedek in the city of David, which is not so long ago. And God said that everything will be disclosed at the end of the age. We are at the end of the age. We go back to that. When Yeshua came on earth, it was the beginning of the end time. And now we are at the end of the end time. It's like, you know, like the week is separated in 7 days, 2 together, which was the time, the period of chaos. Please do some research because you will find that this, I'm not just saying things, okay, is doing a lot of research that would find that, and I'm trying to resume it very briefly for moving on. That's something that I find again. So this is the first 2 days is chaos, then the Torah is given and is the time of the Torah for two days. Then there is the end of days, which is the time when Yeshua come to now, which is the end of days. And then we come into Shabbat, which will be the millennium. And then we'll go on to the new earth and new heaven with the number 8. And you can find all of that. Interesting enough, yesterday I was listening to a rabbi who was speaking also about these things, because I haven't found somebody else before who was speaking about the new heaven and the new earth, and he was speaking about the millennium, Shabbat, and then the time Olam Abba, the time will come, okay? So the time, the future time. So this is where we are at. And now finding about Melchizedek. So Melchizedek was the time of Abraham, and suddenly I was thinking, wow, when Moses got the Torah, got the tablets, something happened. And I looked at it and listen what I find. And it's not my own research. It's like, this is proved, okay? And again, you go into the Jewish, you do research with the Jewish people, and they have, this is like for them something that they know. Not so many, but some knows, and I will tell you about that. And this is very, very important, okay? Because God had an intention to do something perfect, and we missed it, okay? Us and the Jewish people, all of us, same level, we just missed it. Now listen to that. When the first tablets were given, they were, now I'm going to give you some point. They were written by the hand of God, okay? You can look that in Exodus 31:18. Exodus, or in Hebrew, we say Shmot, okay? Then is the work of God, is written again in Exodus 32:16. It is from heaven, because God wants to bring his kingdom from heaven onto earth. We spoke about that many times. It was inscribed on both sides. It's written also in Exodus 32:15, and it was engraved, okay? This was the first one. Then Moses come down, and there is the calf, the golden calf. And Moses broke them. And God is not mad at him that he broke them, which is very interesting. And now I understand. Because of the golden calf, they couldn't have the complete Torah. Now listen to that. I was speaking with one of my friends who is an Orthodox Jew, and she's telling me that you are definitely on to something. The first transmission, so the first tablets, before the scene of the golden calf, was the complete transmission of the Torah. The second was incomplete, and we are going to see the sign of it. It lacked the inner secret of the Torah. One of the aspects of the Geula is the redemption, the final redemption, is the additional revelation of the Torah. So God is going to show us that. We say many times in Jeremiah 23 and 30, like everything will be revealed at the end of time. We are coming to this time. And when you are looking, like we are like in the Jewish calendar, well, a kind of Friday afternoon, okay? Which means like we are preparing for the Shabbat. We are at the time. Now, one word that we have for you this week is like anticipate the return of Mashiach, of the Messiah, of Yeshua. Anticipate him, because we are coming to this time, and it's very important that we know that. Now, the thing that I wanted to say on the second tablet. So, first of all, do you understand? God wasn't angry about Moses breaking the tablets because he knew that we couldn't make it, that we've done something wrong with the golden calf, and there was so much, we didn't trust God. So that's it. We just missed it. Now, I've done some research and I will do some more research, but it seems that the first tablets were very special. It seems to have been color of sapphire, and it was a cube, and a cube is perfect, and it will be written in Hebrew language. So you can read it one way, another way, inside and the other side, and perpendicular. So there was a lot of message, and it was the full Torah. Second time when the tablets are given, God said to Moses, inscribe these words for yourself. This is in Exodus 34:27. Moses' face shine. Why did Moses' face shine? Because God was communicating with him the oral Torah, because he couldn't give all the Torah. So you had the written one and the oral one. And Moses spoke with God face to face, is written. And because of that, obviously, I will say, when we're sensitive, we can see that the revelation and the light, because it's light, the light shone on Moses. And then the people say, okay, put a veil. We can't cope. We can't cope with this light. It's too much for us. And then it was the partial Torah. The first Torah was the full Torah. And the second one was a partial Torah. So God gave the oral one to Moses, say, you have to pass it to the people, and you pass it to Joshua, and Joshua is going to pass it to the others and to the prophet, etc., etc. And so when you think, when Yeshua came, he was the perfect Torah. He was the written Torah. Okay, and he started to reveal. He said, okay, the time is come now, the fulfillment of time, and it was the beginning, and now we are at the end of this time, and we are going to see. So we see how the world is going, because Satan wants that place, and the World Economic Forum and the Freemason, because when you look at the Freemason, they were already in Egypt, etc., etc. It's them who are all behind, because it's the power of Satan who wants to have this place. He always wanted, and it's like that. But we know the end of the story. Yeshua will be there. The Messiah will be there, and he will rule as a king. So we need to anticipate. We need to anticipate what he's doing. You see, sometimes it's hard to see what's happening all around the world, suffering. the control who is coming. And when I was praying, God said to me, okay, anticipate my coming, the coming of the Messiah.
And it's like as in the days of Noah, because in the days of Noah, Noah was anticipating the flood, that he had to build the ark, and God had to hide him. And it says in the book of Enoch that he was hid, that Noah was hidden for his protection. And it's like the scripture where you have to hide yourself away.
Isaiah 23.
That's one of the issues.
Isaiah 23:20 for people to look.
Yeah, and it's one of the issues. You have to do it with wisdom. But it says hide yourself away.
Hide. That's it. You're right.
Because
It's
you
not
need to have
hide
wisdom.
yourself and
Disappear all the time, because maybe that's not the right thing for you. But I mean, it is certainly something to consider, and certainly something to be aware of. And it's almost like the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, when there was the destruction of these cities. And if you go to the Dead Sea, where you can there's still the smell of sulfur, when you go there. But the point was, they had to not look at what was happening. They had to look away from the destruction. And it's almost like that. There are certain times now that we're not meant to look at what's happening and it's something that has to happen, and we don't understand all of it, but we know that our redemption is nigh, and it says, look up, for your redemption is nigh. Now, a lot of the things that are happening at great speed. This is another thing that's happening, and it's happening in Israel. One of the things which has been a huge thing in Israel is the Israel Innovation Authority, the IIA, and they've just awarded a 40 million grant. That's 40 million shekels, I should say. A 40 million grant for autonomous home deliveries and bioconvergence. Autonomous home deliveries, let's break that down for you, is robot deliveries, having robots come. Now, one of the issues, and we've talked about the speed with which they want to have robot deliveries, one of the issues is that we're losing human contact. We're losing the contact with humans that's necessary for social stability, for mental stability, and it's very concerning, because if we, it's not just the loss of jobs, but we're losing that human touch, which is very important for us. Now, the interesting thing is, I was thinking about this, and it's also like the time of COVID, that there was this 6 feet restriction, that you couldn't go closer than 6 feet to people, you couldn't be close to people. And now we have this robotics thing, and there's 40 million shekels which is being made as a grant. Now, one of the concerning things is that the price of living is going up in Israel, and people are struggling with the costs of energy, of paying at the petrol station, and paying for energy.
I was thinking about that when you said that.
Yeah, and yet they have 40 million to spend on something which, in my humble opinion, should be spent on, because we're losing the human touch. It should be invested in human industry and not in robotic industry, or bioconvergence, which again, bioconvergence, what's that? That's the putting together of artificial intelligence, electronics, and genetic engineering, all things which I think are not things that they should be investing in. And again, this is changing.
When you say all these things, how, because they are harvesting a lot of data, how they do it with Facebook, with Instagram, with Twitter. So we are giving them some data. If there was no Facebook, if there was no Twitter, if there was no Instagram, they won't be able to have. I mean, I know they might do it they might do it in a different way, but they are getting a lot of data, how the people react, etc., with all these things. I'm very pleased that I saw Facebook we had trouble, But now I'm so happy that I don't have Facebook anymore and I don't have Twitter.
Yeah.
So they can't get. I'm not part of the a little piece giving them to the system.
And it's not just that. There's ChatGPT. There's artificial intelligence coming in more and more use. Some people are worried about their jobs. And as we've come into the studio in America, Hollywood's on strike all about this artificial intelligence situation. So all these things are happening at a very high speed because we are at the end. It's almost like we're on the last few pages of the book, and we have to squeeze in a lot of narrative to get to the end of the book. But we know that our redemption is nigh, that the Messiah is coming, and that God has the last word. You know, it says in the scriptures that he's enthroned in heaven, and he sits laughing at the when people mock him. He's sitting laughing because he will have the last word, and the new heaven will come down. The new Jerusalem will come down from heaven to the old Jerusalem. The Messiah will come, and there'll be a new heavens and a new earth. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your company. Thank you so much for supporting us. We do need your help, so please consider supporting the program. You can see all the information on our donate page on the website. A lot of information on the website. Please sign up to our new Substack newsletter. You can do that on our news page or on our contact page. There's information on how to get the Substack letter in your box and get all the information. And as I say, there's a huge amount of information on the website, and if you'd like to support us, we appreciate that. Thank you so much to everybody who is supporting us on a regular basis. It's how we're able to come to you today from Jerusalem. And don't forget, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.